Stephanie White. Grab a notebook, put on your glasses, and get ready to study because a coaching clinic is taking place right before everyone's eyes, and you're sitting in the front row as a student. The teacher delivering this powerful lesson is none other than Cheryl Reeve, the iconic head coach of the Minnesota Lynx. And the focus of today's class is simple: how to truly support, understand, and maximize a young generational point guard who competes with unmatched fire and raw emotion every single night. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications because we appreciate all of your support. Today, we need to discuss a massive difference happening inside the WNBA right now. Let us be honest from the beginning. A lot of people within the WNBA fan base still have issues with Cheryl Reeve. Nobody has forgotten the controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark being left off Team USA. Many fans believe that decision was absolutely ridiculous and completely unfair. However, when credit is deserved, it has to be acknowledged. As a coach, Cheryl Reeve has built an incredible reputation through years of success. And at this moment, she is giving the Indiana Fever coaching staff a harsh but obvious lesson. She is showing Stephanie White how to properly manage an emotional young superstar without tearing them down publicly, without killing their confidence, and without acting uncomfortable mentioning their name during post-game interviews. If you are a Fever fan, then you already understand frustration. Every time Caitlin Clark shows passion and emotion on the court, the sideline instantly feels tense and chaotic.
You know, you got Indiana Fever assistants yelling at her on the sideline. You got them running on the floor to grab her up like the Undertaker. All of this unnecessary stuff. Pay attention to this. We don't need this. We don't need y'all doing this.
Take a serious look at what is happening on the Indiana Fever bench right now. You have assistant coaches loudly barking at Caitlin Clark and charging onto the court, trying to hold her back like the situation is completely out of control. Honestly, it feels way too dramatic for a player whose biggest crime is caring deeply about winning basketball games. The reaction is unnecessary and makes the entire moment look worse than it really is. Now shift your attention to the other side and notice the difference a championship-level coach can make. Watch how Cheryl Reeve handles that same intensity and emotion with Minnesota's explosive young guard, Olivia Miles. There is no panic, no public embarrassment, and no chaos taking over the sideline. Instead, there is composure, understanding, and trust in a talented young player who competes with passion. That is what elite coaching looks like when dealing with emotional superstars.
So a foul was called, and you see Olivia Miles jumping up and down, showing the emotion. Hey, that wasn't a foul. Review that. Let's go. Let's go. I'm not going for it. I'm mad.
A foul gets called, and Olivia Miles immediately lets her emotions fly. She is bouncing around in frustration, staring directly at the officials, making it crystal clear that she completely disagrees with the whistle. She is basically telling the referees, "That was not a foul. Take another look at it. I am not accepting that call." You can see the passion, the intensity, and the competitive fire pouring out of her in that moment. Now pay attention to Cheryl Reeve's response. Does she send assistant coaches racing onto the court to restrain her own player? Does she start yelling for her to quiet down and hide that emotion? Absolutely not. Instead, she understands exactly what she is watching: a young competitor who cares deeply about the game and refuses to back down in a heated moment.
She is so competitive. She is so passionate. She's talking.
All right, you see that? You see that? You see how she didn't try to police her emotions and just take her heart and emotion out of the game? You see how she had let her come to the sideline? Hey, let's talk about it. You know, this is how you're supposed to handle things. Not sending your assistants over there to grab her up, pick her up off of her feet, and all of this stuff. Pay attention, Stephanie White.
Did you notice that? Cheryl Reeve never tried to control or shut down Olivia Miles' emotions in that moment. She did not attempt to take away the passion and intensity that make her young star so dangerous on the basketball court. Instead, she allowed her player to come back to the bench, talk through the situation, and release that competitive energy naturally. It was more like, all right, let's discuss it and move forward. That is what real leadership looks like. Great coaches stand behind their players, especially when emotions are high. They let them experience the game fully instead of treating passion like a problem that needs to be erased. You do not send a group of assistant coaches charging in to physically pull your own superstar away or lift her off the floor over every emotional reaction. Unfortunately, that seems to be the approach Stephanie White prefers whenever Caitlin Clark shows even the slightest bit of fire and competitiveness on the court.
Hyping up the crowd. Okay. You know, we remember the situation where she's hyping up the crowd. You go, look at this. What are you doing? What are you, that's not how you handle it. We don't need you policing Caitlin Clark's emotions. Her emotions is a part of why she goes off and destroys a lot of these players. We don't need this. We don't need y'all doing this.
Everybody remembers that moment. Caitlin Clark was feeding off the crowd, bringing life and excitement into the arena, and instead of embracing it, the coaching staff reacted like she was doing something wrong. That is not the way you manage a superstar player. Nobody needs coaches constantly trying to control Caitlin Clark's emotions, because that passion is exactly what makes her so dangerous on the court. Her fire, intensity, and confidence are the same qualities that allow her to explode offensively and tear apart opposing defenses. That emotion is not a weakness. It is her greatest strength. Try to remove it would be like ripping the engine out of a high-performance sports car and expecting it to still dominate the race. It makes absolutely no sense. Stephanie White seriously needs to study what Cheryl Reeve is doing because she is putting on a masterclass in handling elite talent. And the reality is, the young point guard she is coaching is nowhere near the level of superstar that Stephanie White already has on her roster. But this conversation goes beyond emotional moments on the sideline. It also carries over into the media room and the tactical side of basketball. Now it is time to dive into the strategy, the details, and the X's and O's. Let's talk about the pick and roll game.
Pick and roll game is obviously a big part of the pro game. Whoa. Cheryl Reeves is saying, hey, the pick and roll game is a big part of the pro game. You are trying to get rid of it. We have the best pick and roll tandem in the entire league in Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, the most unstoppable two-man game.
Hold on for a second. Stop everything right there. Cheryl Reeve, a coach with multiple WNBA championships and years of proven success, is openly explaining that the pick and roll is one of the most important foundations of professional basketball. At the exact same time, Stephanie White seems determined to move away from it in Indiana. And that is what makes the situation so confusing. The Indiana Fever have arguably the most dangerous pick and roll duo in the entire WNBA. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston create a two-player combination that defenses simply cannot handle consistently. Every time they run that action, the defense breaks down, open shots appear everywhere, and the offense suddenly becomes explosive. It is one of the deadliest weapons the league has seen in years. But instead of fully building around it, Stephanie White shifted toward a motion-heavy offensive system and pushed the team away from its greatest strength. It is like taking your most unstoppable offensive weapon and hiding it instead of unleashing it. Meanwhile, Cheryl Reeve is publicly reinforcing how critical the pick and roll remains in modern basketball, which indirectly shines a spotlight on the biggest weakness in Indiana's current offensive approach. And honestly, the contrast does not stop there. The real difference becomes even more obvious once the cameras turn on and the post-game interviews begin. Pay attention to what happens whenever reporters ask Cheryl Reeve about her young point guard.
Olivia Miles.
Yeah, I think she just has a maturity about her, right? So pick and roll game is obviously a lot of the pro game, but I think even more than that, I think some of the hardest things to teach players when they come into the league is about tempo and pace. So if you look at how she plays with tremendous tempo. She manipulates defenses.
Do you hear the difference? Cheryl Reeve keeps the entire discussion centered on Olivia Miles and what makes her special as a player. She talks about her with confidence and admiration. She highlights her tempo, her control of the game, and her ability to manipulate defenses by changing speeds, slowing things down, speeding them up, and reading the floor with elite vision. She never avoids a topic, redirects the praise to somebody else, or rushes to mention a veteran player just to keep from fully giving credit to the rookie. Stephanie White, this is the blueprint. When your generational point guard delivers superstar performances, you build her up publicly. You fuel her confidence instead of tearing it down with subtle criticism or awkward backhanded compliments. Cheryl Reeve, a coach with real championships and real credibility, is showing exactly how elite coaches handle elite talent. And the Indiana Fever desperately need to pay attention because the pressure around this team keeps growing every single game. Now the Fever are heading into a huge matchup against the Golden State Valkyries, and the attention surrounding this game is massive, especially after the controversy involving Tiffany Hayes and a hot mic moment that created so much drama after the last meeting. Fans remember exactly who started the talking and the tension early in that game, but once Caitlin Clark started taking over, the energy completely shifted. That is why this rematch in Golden State is expected to be absolutely electric. Caitlin Clark already earned her first win over the Valkyries. The arena will be packed, and the crowd is going to be loud because one of the biggest young superstars in basketball is stepping into the building. Natalie Nakes and the Valkyries coaching staff are definitely preparing an aggressive defensive game plan focused on getting the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands and forcing someone else to beat them. At the same time, everybody will be watching Stephanie White closely to see if she can finally make the proper in-game adjustments. Fans do not want to see the Fever making the same defensive mistakes again, especially the constant switching on ball screens that completely fell apart in the previous matchup. Offensively, the answer feels obvious. Bring back the pick and roll. Let Aaliyah Boston establish herself inside, and use her presence in the post to pressure the defense even when she is not directly scoring. More than anything, Stephanie White needs to trust Caitlin Clark to fully control the offense. Let her push the pace, create chaos, feed off the crowd, and play with emotion that makes her special. If the coaching staff finally allows that to happen, the Indiana Fever could have a huge breakthrough in this matchup. The blueprint is already sitting right in front of them because Cheryl Reeve practically handed it over. Now the only thing left to find out is whether Stephanie White is willing to learn from it. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let everybody know where you stand on this debate. Is Cheryl Reeve completely right about how to handle a young superstar? And is Stephanie White holding the Fever back from reaching their full potential? Keep supporting the channel. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and we will catch you in the next video.